Morning. Jersey City campus of Hudson County Community College. Welcome. Good morning and welcome to the North Hudson campus of Hudson County Community College. Good morning and welcome to each and every one of you who are watching this remote, who are attending our annual Convocation Fall 2021. We just want to let you know we have a few housekeeping items that we want to bring to your attention. This year, for the first time, we are offering a program that just started through the ITS department and under the leadership of our Chief Information Officer, Patricia Clay, and her team, and it's the Hudson County Community College's ITV Passport. Yay! So, this is brand new. So hopefully you got your passport book and you will be able to go around and view some ITV room items. The flyer was downstairs at sign-in, or if you were at North Hudson, you got it in the North Hudson campus. You have to be on campus to attend this event, I believe. However, next time, we will probably set it up so you could do it virtually or remotely. But so from 12 o'clock to 1, during lunch on your own, you can go to one of those rooms, get your booklet stamped. You can also do it at 3 o'clock after 3. Get your booklet stamped just like a regular passport, you know, when you travel out of the country. You get it stamped and you return it to the Human Resources office, and you will be able to get a gift later. So we just wanted to let you know that. And so can we give a round of applause to the ITS department for setting this up? We here at Hudson County Community College, we are making excellent technology a reality. But on to Convocation. And we hope that you enjoyed the breakfast and the networking time that you had here today. But this is Fall 2021 Convocation. Our theme, faculty and student engagement, a commitment to success. You have the program with items in the program, and we just want to make mention there's one correction in the program. We just want you to note, if you open to the center of the program, you will see we have listed there the planning group members. Where it says Dr. Peter Cronrath, it should say Assistant Professor. Yay, congratulations. So just wanted to call that to your attention. And now, without further ado, we are going to have some academic acknowledgments coming from our very own Vice President for Academic Affairs, Dr. Darrell Jones. Give him a warm welcome.
Thank you, Lalisa, and good morning, everyone. It's always a challenge following Lalisa. She has so much energy that it's hard to match. So, Lalisa, thank you for all that you do. And as we extend acknowledgments for this program, you are at the top of the list for how you single-handedly, with the planning committee, each semester, whether it's College Service Day or Fall Convocation, you do it and you do it well. So let's give Lalisa another round of applause. So I'm always a part of it, but all I do is just say, okay, Lisa, that's good, that's good, that's good. So send it on. So good morning again and welcome to Fall Convocation. It is indeed a wonderful day, and I'm glad that everyone is here, whether you're in the room or you are virtually. Thank you for carving out some time in your day. The new academic year has started, and from my vantage point, it is off to a good start. Our campus is once again vibrant. Our students are here, our staff are back, our faculty are here also. As you review today's agenda, you will notice that it is a robust agenda, and I'll do my best to keep us on track so that we don't get too far off the course. And at the conclusion of the day, I hope that you feel that the time you invested was well spent, that you learned something, and you feel gratified or fortified based on what you have experienced today. So, as we return to campus, there are so many of our colleagues that I want to thank today, but as I begin, it is the Convocation Planning team led by Lalisa Williams. Lalisa, again, thank you, thank you, thank you. The planning members, their names appear in the program, and we'll have some special acknowledgments for them in just a moment. So we don't want to ensure that we slight anyone. So for Fall Convocation addresses the theme, as Lalisa had mentioned, of faculty and student engagement, a commitment to success. And most, if not all of us, can resonate with that particular title. Most of us will agree that faculty and student interaction is key to student success. I want to take time to acknowledge and extend gratitude for each and every one of you who have gone above and beyond to help us repopulate our learning and working spaces. I want to thank our extraordinary faculty and staff for adapting continuously to changes and to pivots to ensure our students could safely return to campus. This was indeed a remarkable demonstration of our commitment to our mission. As a reminder, our mission provides our diverse communities with inclusive, high-quality educational programs and services that promote student success and upward social and economic mobility. Truth be told, we have asked much of you, and we continue to benefit from your patience, your insight, and confidence as we all are rowing in unison into this new academic year. We are able to accomplish this based on the most current and appropriate guidance of the Return to Campus Task Force, co-chaired by Lisa Doherty and Dr. Heather DeRees. Thank you, Lisa and Heather, for all that you've done and for your planning committee. In reflection, we have all been impacted in some form or fashion over the last year and a half. Many of us have endured personal hardships, health issues, and new levels of stress that sometimes seem endless. Over the next months and beyond, I encourage you to take care of each other, show compassion when needed, and generally be good colleagues to one another. This is the measure of what it means to say with passion that Hudson is home. As we proceed with important college-wide events such as Convocation and College Service Day, I want to establish a cadence to ensure that faculty members are recognized for their most notable accomplishments in the following areas: teaching, scholarship, and service. This commitment to educational excellence define faculty success as the achievement of excellence in various fields of academic endeavor, including the following: theory development, research and knowledge creation, scholarly and professional publications, conference and public presentations or exhibitions, teaching and knowledge transfer, course and curriculum innovation and enhancement, academic advisory, mentoring students, and service to the university or the community. I hope I didn't leave anything out. Faculty, celebrating faculty success acknowledges, recognizes, and shows appreciation for faculty members, encouraging them to pursue excellence, develop professionally, and enjoy working in an environment that understands, values, and appreciates their work. Our faculty certainly teach our students. They serve on committees, they mentor our students, and they share their knowledge and expertise in so many ways. So please allow me to share a few of the many accomplishments and achievements of our faculty over the past year. So faculty accomplishments for 2021, recently tenured faculty include the following: Eric Adamson, Assistant Professor of English; Faisal Al-Jamal, Assistant Professor of Computer Science; Peter Cronrath, Assistant Professor of Business. Recent promotions to the rank of Professor: Joseph Caniglia, English, who now has the pleasure of serving as Executive Director of the North Hudson campus, and Dr. Patrick Moore in Psychology. Retirements, there have been quite a few. We miss all of those employees who are here each and every day. Associate Dean of Business Culinary Arts, Hospitality Management, Paul Dillon; Saru Megadutrian; Philip Cafasio; Nabil Marchute; Denise Phillips; and Rosie Soy. Those that have received advanced degrees: Dr. Era Karkashian, Dr. Angela Pack, Dr. Abdallah Matari, and Dr. Heather DeRees. Faculty and staff who were fortunate to be named League of Innovation Award recipients are the following: Dr. Sirhan Abdallah, Joseph Caniglia, Theodore Lai, Dr. Jerry Lamb, Dr. Clive Lee, Amala Ogburn, Natalia Vasquez-Botkins, Alana Winslow, and Kyle Woolley. Faculty accomplishments in the academic divisions: Academic Development and Support Services, Bernard Adamady received the NISOT Excellence in Teaching Award. In Business, Culinary Arts, and Hospitality Management, Courtney Payne has welcomed her son Daniel on May 2021. English and ESL. Karen Galley was recently accepted as a presenter at the International Conference on Arts and Humanities for the category of Health in the Arts and Humanities. Her topic was entitled Intergenerational Trauma, Cultural Coping, and the Refugee Reflex in Graphic Novels. Eric Adamson and Karen Galley presented at the International Council of E-Learning Conference in April. Their topic was using Discord to create community and student engagement in the composition classroom. Eric Adamson also presented, along with Dr. Reber, Trustee Pamela Gardner, Yours Pujols, and Cora Booth at the 2021 HCCC conference. Katie Sweeting will present at the upcoming NISOT conference in October. Katie's presentation is entitled Teamwork Works on Online Classes. The following faculty are recognized for their contributions in online course development: Susanna Wexler, English 115, Writing for Emerging Media; Jeanne Baptiste, African American Literature; Katie Sweeting, World Literature 1650 to the present; and Ava Kozlenko, thank you for your participation and assistance with the ESL Proficiency Certificate. Humanities and Social Sciences: Laura Riccadonna and Jeremiah Typin coordinated the participation of HCCC students with the Art and Feminism Lecture and Wikipedia Edit-a-thon as part of Women's History Month. Joseph Gallo directed the Magic Hour, which was named Best Feature Film at the New York City Indie Theater Film Festival. He also received a grant for the New Jersey Theater Alliance to write, produce, and perform a one-hour podcast called The Playbill Gallery, A Love Story. Denise Rosilli recently received the 2021 Cited Guide Award in honor of her contributions to Eyes Like Mine, Incorporated. It is a nonprofit organization founded in Newark, New Jersey, whose mission is to empower, enlighten, and innovate communities about vision loss and the available resources for people with vision loss. She has been instrumental in assisting the organization with identifying talented students as interns. TFT instructor Christopher Cody received the HCC National Society of Leadership and Success Chapter's Excellence in Teaching Award. Tony Acevedo is in the room. Hi, Tony. Is presenting at the upcoming Digitorium Conference hosted by the University of Alabama, Teaching History with the Technology of the Future. Scholars will discuss teaching history online in higher education. Tony's presentation is entitled Creating Meaningful Discussion in Online History Courses. He also shared that he'd like to take a football game in while he's in Alabama, but he'll be virtual. Nursing and Health Sciences. Kudos to Lori Bird, who has received AQ certification; Jerry Kiefer Necklin, who received CITI certification; Carol Fasano, who received recertification for adult nursing practitioner; Catherine Serangelo, CITI certification; Jihan Nakla, AQ certification and NISOT Excellence Award; Karen Hosick, CPR instructor certification; Sirhan Abdallah, Certified Clinical Medical Assistant, and Gian Nakla again for AQ certification. And last, Harry Cisbario, Healthcare Simulation Educator certification. In STEM, Dr. Arzar Mahmood received the $300,000 National Science Foundation Advanced Technical Education Grant, which was entitled Strengthening Community College and Workforce Partnerships in Construction Management in 2021. Clive Lee is the recipient of the 2021 Center for Teaching, Learning, and Innovation Institutional Grant. That amount, $2,500. His research project was entitled Closing the Gender Gap in STEM. Theodore Lai, again, was recipient of Continued Excellence Award for Advisors, Phi Theta Kappa, also the Middle States Award of Excellence. Ted is also the HCC representative for the Jack Kent Cook Undergraduate Transfer Scholarship, the Goldwater Foundation Scholarship, and the Udall Foundation Scholarship. Ted, thank you very much for all that you do for our students. And Dr. Nadia Headley was nominated for the New Jersey CCC Women of Excellence in Science in March 2021. A lot of folks have participated in gallery exhibitions. They include the following: Joseph Gallo, Laura Riccadonna, Jeremiah Typin, Dorothy Anderson, Rashid Wright, Alana Winslow, and again, Dorothy Anderson for her participation. So as you've heard, our faculty are truly doing amazing things with our students and in the classroom. I would not be able to do what I do if it were not for the assistance of our associate deans. So if our associate deans are present, can I ask you to please stand and be recognized for all that you do? Eric Karakashian. Eric Karakashian, Dr. Allison Wakefield. I don't see Kathy Sarangelo, but I'm sure she is with us today. I don't see Burl Yearwood. I'm sure Burl is where? Somebody's pointing. I'm sure Burl is here also. Heather DeRees, you need to also stand, please. Dr. Pamela Baniopatie, please stand. I don't see Jenny Bobea, but I'm certain she is with us today. And I think I have identified everyone. Thank you again for all that you do. So I hear Eric Friedman in one of my ears, I don't know which one, and he would say, Daryl, you need to check for comprehension. So at this time, for anyone in the room, if I have omitted something or failed to mention any accomplishment or achievement, please blame it on my head and not my heart. So there are mics around. So if there's anything that was missed, please feel free to share at this time. I don't want to hear about it tomorrow. I know there's something, but if there's something that I failed to mention, please, please, please let me know, and I can also do that. So I'm out of breath. I'm tired. It's very warm up here. Very, very warm. So, Trenda, good luck when you come up. So, having said that, if you could now please turn your attention and give our president, Dr. Chris Reaver, your undivided attention as he gives you his words of welcome. Chris.
Well, thank you so much, Daryl, and thank you for your leadership, not only for today, but college-wide, day in and day out. Absolutely. Can the folks that are joining us virtually at North Hudson hear us? Can you just nod? Are they nodding? Good. So good morning, students, faculty, staff, and friends. It's really wonderful seeing you on ground at North Hudson and Journal Square and remotely. And can we have a North Hudson cheer? Can I have a cheer from the North Hudson campus? Yay! I was there yesterday for Pizza with the President and got a little tour from Joe Caniglia, and man, what a great campus. It looks beautiful, but yeah, and there were a large number of students at Pizza with the President, just such enthusiasm there. And thank you for all you do, our North Hudson colleagues. So, like all good things we do at Hudson County Community College, Convocation requires caring and diligent planning. And I would also like to add my thanks and express my gratitude to our valued colleague, Lalisa Williams, who's led the coordination of this day. By the end of today, her head will be too large to get out of the door, but she's going to be thanked, I know, throughout the day. She does such a wonderful job and is so beautifully enthusiastic in her approach. I don't know, is she here? Is she hearing me? Hope her ears are burning. I also want to add my thanks to additional colleagues who played a major role today in planning our day. Tony Acevedo, Dr. Pam Bandiopatier, Jennifer Christopher, Patricia Clay, Dr. Peter Cronrath, Veronica Gerasimo, Dr. Darrell Jones, Anna Krapitsky, and Jose Lowe. How about a round of applause? Thank you, colleagues. We're also most grateful to our speakers today, Latrenda Ross, an alumna who's back home today, Dr. Nabil Marchute, and Dr. Christine Harrington. Thank you for being part of this program today. And we thank our panelists and very much look forward to their comments. I'm really excited to hear both panel conversations. We thank the students, Yasmin Abdelaziz, Angel Bibi, and Mario Justo Gonzalez. And we thank our faculty panel members, Dr. Sirhan Abdullah, Joseph Gallo, Dr. Jerry Lamb, and Dr. Fatma Tat. We also thank panel moderators, Tony Acevedo and Michael Furlise. Today's convocation theme, faculty and student engagement, a commitment to success, is exceptionally fitting, as Dr. Jones has already demonstrated. In spite of the unprecedented challenges of the twin pandemics of COVID-19, both COVID-19 and racial and social violence and injustice, I refer to them as the twin pandemics, our college community remained vibrant and achieved many positive outcomes thanks to everyone's engagement during the past year and throughout these pandemics. We came together as a family to support and celebrate one another and to promote the success of our inspirational students. And there has been so much success and so much to celebrate. The myriad of meetings, conversations, remembrances, celebrations, open fora, sharing of personal and life stories, and on have brought us together and strengthened our mutual understanding and our commitment to one another, to our students, our community, our nation, and beyond. As a united and caring community, an engaged community, we've continued to live and breathe our mission, and we've continued to be inspired by our students, faculty, staff, trustees, alumni, and friends. Faculty are in countless ways the heart of any college. They know our students on so many levels. They know our students deeply, and they nurture and promote the life-changing and transformational growth of our students. Faculty are at the center of our academic mission. They teach, they mentor, they inspire. Today, we celebrate our faculty, and we celebrate the students they care about so deeply. Recently, the president of Phi Theta Kappa International Honor Society, Dr. Lynn Tincher-Ladner, sent me a pin to present to Professor Ted Lai, the inspirational advisor of our dynamic 5-star Beta Alpha Phi chapter of Phi Theta Kappa International Honor Society. This pin recognizes Ted's 25 years of service as a Phi Theta Kappa advisor and mentor, and I'm happy to present it to him today. Professor Lai, please come forward. Ted, can you come forward? Thank you for the transformational, life-changing impact you've had over the past quarter century and the support and mentoring you continue to offer HCC students. I see pictures every day. He is out with students. He is changing lives, doing it quietly, but so dynamically. Ted, I've never been so inspired, and I want you to know how much we value what you do for our students. And please accept this pin. Thank you. I put him on the spot.
25 years was 1996. Yeah, 25 years. I volunteered because the person who started in 1995, she left to start a family and never came back. All right, so since 1996, I been working with the students. And Friday is a big day. Jack Can Cook opens on Friday. $55,000 per year scholarship. So last year we had 2 winners. This year we hope to go over 3. Right? Okay. Thank you.
And, you know, yeah, for the last 3 years, every year we have had 1, and last year 2 Jack Kent Cook Scholars. This is out of 70 or so in the nation. It's truly life-changing impact. I can tell you, and I know you know this, Ted is sitting there with every student. First of all, he is encouraging them and mentoring them to apply. And then he is sitting down with them. And in fact, I've been part of the process. He's making sure they're getting their stuff in on time. Students have told me, I sometimes hear from Professor Lai at 2 a.m. reminding me that this is due tomorrow morning. So Ted, again, you know, thank you so much. We're so grateful to you. Last year's Jack Kent Cook Scholars are now attending Princeton and Columbia as we speak. Dr. Marchute, we hope your retirement is off to a great beginning, and we're delighted you're here today and will speak about your educational journey. Where is he? Is he here? He's remote, okay. Your years of teaching excellence, scholarship, and service at this college have left an indelible mark on so many lives and on all we celebrate. Thank you for nurturing and touching the lives and careers of thousands and thousands of students and other members of the HCCC family over your years of exemplary service to Hudson County Community College. Thank you so much. How about a round of applause? And we'll be hearing from him later. I'd also like to acknowledge and thank several faculty who were recognized for their excellence last year. We congratulate and celebrate the winner of the 2020 Association of Community College Trustees Northeast Region Faculty Award, Professor Laurie Riccadonna. Congratulations. We thank and celebrate the 2020 Philip Johnston Excellence in Teaching Award honorees, Professor Laurie Riccadonna and Dr. Clive Lee. And we thank and honor the Hudson County Community College Foundation Distinguished Community Award recipient, retired Associate Dean and former faculty colleague, Paul Dillon. Lori, Clive, and Paul, we celebrate your excellence, dedication, and commitment to our students and our college's mission. The recent recognition of your excellence and service exemplifies the achievement, dedication, and passion for education and student success of faculty and staff throughout the HCCC family. Today's faculty panelists and moderators, to a person, also demonstrate this passion, dedication, and excellence in everything they do. So this morning, I'd like to thank and salute our Hudson County Community College faculty. Thank you. A round of applause for our faculty. They teach our students. And to all Hudson County Community College students, faculty, staff, alumni, trustees, and friends, thank you from the bottom of my heart and from the bottom of our HCCC family's collective heart for all you do. Together, engaged and committed to success, we're making a difference. Enjoy Convocation. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Reaper, for your remarks, and I'm back. I'm refreshed. Now got a second wind. So there was a person in the room today, and I did not know who this individual was, but they were walking and sitting like they belonged. They were moving about, and they were talking, and they were eating, and I wondered, I said, who is that person? And then Lisa tapped me and said, Daryl, that's LaTrenta. I was like, oh, so that's who she is. So she is moving like Hudson is truly her home, and I'd like to welcome her back. Her bio appears on page 2 in our program, but I will say that LaTrenta is locally recognized civic community advocate. She is a life coach, a public speaker, and she's a writer. LaTrenta focuses on helping women and young people achieve their potential, as well as to gain empowerment, confidence, and self-mastery to navigate through careers, business growth, and transition. We are fortunate to have her here today. I am so glad that the planning committee infused an alumna or alumni into the speaker. We welcome alumna LaTrenda Ross. LaTrenda.
Good morning. Oh, listen, we're not starting this today. Everyone up. Good morning. Yes, today is a beautiful day. It's a bright day. We're going to celebrate each other. Good morning. Thank you. Good morning. Happy Wednesday. We're almost to the finish line. I know some of you started on Monday getting your party shoes and your attire ready for Friday, even though you didn't know how the week would turn out. But guess what? I'm getting this attire ready. I'm completely understand that you don't have to say anything or explain it because I know that your week is going fantastic. Good morning. I bring greetings to President Reber, students, faculty, staff, and guests. I am humbly honored to be with you today. Thank you. Get ready to experience a massive shift throughout my engagement with you today. First, we're going to reflect on 6 words. Momentum for my success starts today. Is that okay with you? I can't hear you. Is that okay with you? Super fantastic. I need everybody to stand up. Oh yeah, we're standing today. I want you to say this with me with full force and energy so much that New York City will hear you. Understand? Momentum for my success starts today. For my success starts today. I can't, no, New York, first of all, the mayor can't hear you, okay? So let's start this again. Momentum for my success starts today. Thank you. My topic today is creating momentum for your success. And the 3 things I will be covering are tackle your fear, commit to improving yourself, and get inspired. Audience, I want you to think, know, do, and feel by the end of this presentation. People all over the world are making breakthroughs in their success and living abundant lives. I'm going to develop a healthy amount of idealism and optimism for your life to create endless ideas and excitement for the possibilities ahead. Giving you the inherent belief that life should be fulfilling and that we deserve to move in the direction of our dreams. Audience, I want you to feel empowered with the pursuit of passion and all the resulting benefits of joy, satisfaction, personal growth, and a life without regrets. Everything you want is already yours. And I do mean everything. I'm talking about the money, the freedom, the empowerment, the knowledge. I want you to live in overflow. You have to believe in yourself and keep up the momentum when no one else does. That makes you a winner right there, said Venus Williams. Didn't nobody know that, right? I'm going to repeat message point 1. Momentum for my success starts today. Fear. I want you to tackle your fears. Fear of oneself is termed autophobia, which comes from 2 Greek words. Autos meaning self, and phobos meaning fear. We question our passion and start to wonder if this is the right path. We shift our focus and jump to the next thing. The frequent jumping hinders us from achieving our goals. The reality is that the journey to success is not a sprint, it's a marathon. When fear and anxiety become a pattern in our lives, they become a problem. When fearfulness causes harm to your physical and mental stability, and you find yourself avoiding things that might create more fear, don't ignore it. If you're working a job that keeps you from what matters to you, your family, your hobbies, traveling, or even your health, You're keeping yourself from what makes you feel alive and connected. It's easy to think about change, but what you probably feel when you think about making a change is fear. Fearing the unknown can keep us from making the change we need to make, aligning our work and lifestyle with what we love. But so many people have succeeded past this fear. I want to tell you a quick story that makes sense to all of us. It's very familiar to, and I say this too because some of us may have a similar story or something like it. I started at Hudson County Community College. Can I take this? Okay. I started out at Hudson County Community College. I think it was back in 1999. I was working in Sea Caucus at a job that I loved. Really loved this job. It was at a warehouse. I was a warehouse manager. It was called Hero Group, which was a retail outlet that designed designer clothes for women. And I got that job because, see, one thing about me, I'm very creative and I think outside of the box. So what I did was that I went through this magazine outlet for Sea Caucus. And I went through the pages calling every store in the magazine until I got Hero Group. The manager was Susan. Susan said, how did you know we were hiring? I said, I didn't. I said, I went through the magazine because I'm looking for a job. I'm very employable. I'm ready to work. She said, well, come in. We're going to interview you. I came in the next day. We had that little interview. She hired me right on the spot. You know why? It was initiative. I thought outside of the box. I was very creative. So she figured I would be great as being that warehouse manager. Now, when she said warehouse manager, I don't know what she's talking about. But she put me in the warehouse. I looked at the warehouse. I said, you got to be kidding me. What is this mess? It was a mess. But one thing about me, I like to fix messes. So what I did was that I recreated that warehouse to look as spotless like this room. It was so spotless that they call it the captain ship. You can't go back there. Latrinda will kill you if you go back there. Do not move a piece of clothing. Don't you do anything because she will kill you. Well, 4 years, I got called into the office at night, and she said, Latrinda, we're closing the store. When she said that, my heart dropped because I loved working at Hero Group. Not only that, but I got tired of being laid off so much. So she said, don't worry, we're going to give you severance pay. You'll be able to file for unemployment. But that wasn't it. I was just tired of being laid off from a job. The next day, I sit up in my bed, and I'm saying to myself, did I just get laid off from work? Like I literally had to question myself. And sure enough, I did. I got dressed, got on the bus, didn't know where I was going, somehow winded up in this building. Somehow, till this day, I could tell you. I know it was nobody but God. I winded up in this building, standing, following people in this building, didn't know where I was going. I followed the students, well, young people, because I didn't know who they were. I followed them in the elevator, went all the way downstairs in the basement, and I'm like, where am I going? You ever watch a movie and you see people in the elevator? They ain't got no business going downstairs in the basement because something might happen. Well, that's me. I got out of the elevator. I'm looking. They left. It's dark. I don't know what to do. I'm steady walking. I walk around the corner. All I see all these people. I'm standing there, don't know why I'm in this building. A beautiful woman walked up to me. God rest her soul. She's not here anymore. She was the director of student support services, Sioka Malumba. Raise your hand if you knew Sioka. Sioka came to me, stood by me, and till this day, I believe that God sent her to me. She said to me, why are you here? I said, I don't know. She said, well, what's your name? I said, Latrinda Ross. She said, you don't know why you're here? I said, I don't know. I was crying. She said, well, guess what? I said, what? She said, you going to college? I said, no, I'm not. I'm not. Is this where I am, college? She said, yeah. I said, no, I can't go here. I don't have no money. I can't go here. She said, you don't have to worry about a thing. I'm going to take care of everything for you. I'm going to help you. You're going to succeed in this college. From that day on, I have been a pride and joy at Hudson County Community College. It has been my foundation. I have learned, I have grown, I have succeeded with Hudson County Community College and some of the faculties in here today. I took the initiative. I reached out when I needed help. When I didn't have the money to buy books and stuff, somehow I got those books. Somehow I was able to succeed in this college because faculty people like you and my peers supported me. So when Hudson County says, LaTrenda, can you come? I run. I don't walk, I run. Because this is my foundation. This is where I have learned, and this is where I have grown, and this is where I'm going to continue to keep coming back, keep coming back, keep coming back, so that I can be the light in everyone else's life. If you're working a job that keeps you from what matters to you, it's easy to think about change. But what you probably feel when you think about making a change is fear. I want you to focus on positive thoughts. Start every day with a positive note. I want you to practice mindfulness. Put down your phone. Well, not you two, because you're taking photos. Put down your phone for at least an hour a day. It's not that important. Stop looking down and start looking up. Start looking to the right, start looking to the left. Start looking to the front, start looking to the back. You need to see the beauty that is surrounding you. Train your brain to stop the fear response. Be okay with some things being out of control. I want you to try new things. Push yourself beyond your comfort zone. Don't take yourself too seriously. It's not that serious. Make a list of things you're scared to tackle, from least to most scary. Once you have the list, work your way up the ladder. I moved to Jersey City 2 years ago. I had an opportunity to move. I lived in Hoboken for 43 years. That's my home. So when I got the opportunity to move, I was like, oh God, I'm moving. I don't want to leave Hoboken. I got my daughters, my grandchildren, I got my family. I'm not moving. But you know what? God said, you got to get out of here. It's time for you to move. You've been doing so much for everybody else. Why don't you give yourself some credit? Why don't you celebrate yourself? And this is an opportunity that I'm giving you to celebrate yourself. So when I moved into my new apartment, and my daughter, Letitia, who's here, came with me the day when they showed me the apartment, I was like, oh my God, oh boy, luxury. Even my daughter said, well, can she move in today? The man said, no, we got paperwork to do. She can't move in today. When I moved into my apartment, it took me, I kid you not, about 6 months to get settled in. You know why? I was afraid that somebody was coming to take it from me. I really looked at this place and said, am I supposed to be here? I started questioning myself. But I learned how to adapt into my new place, feel the presence of it, come to know the surroundings and everything that is in that building that I ever wanted. Because, see, I spoke it before. I said, I want to move into a building that got a pool, that got a concierge, that got a lounge room, wash and dryer. I had already spoken it years ago. It was nothing but God that said, it is time. The fruit is here. It's fruitful time. So when I finally got settled into my new apartment, I said, this is mine. Nobody's coming to take this away from me unless I want them to. But they're not getting it. They're not getting it. I want you to do one thing every day that scares you, says Eleanor Roosevelt. Momentum, I can't hear you. Momentum for my success starts today. I want you to commit to improving yourself. The number one question I get from people is, can I do this even if I've never done it before? The answer is yes. Yes, you can do it. Commitment leads to action. Action brings your dream closer, said Marchute. Commitment is more than a survival instinct and a mental demand or wish. It is a call to push your limits and experience the edge of your being. It is a call to be more than you ever had before and to learn more deeply about yourself. Commitment takes the 4 Ds. Discipline. Disengaging dramas. Oh, this is my favorite one. One thing about me, I don't like mess. I don't like getting engaged in drama, gossip. I don't like it. I don't invite any type of darkness into my life. I believe in light. I believe in love. I believe in happiness. I believe in fulfillment. Is everybody in this audience feeling what I'm saying? Do not engage in drama. It will destroy you. It will bring havoc on your life. Diligence, dedication. What are you doing to keep your commitment alive spiritually, mentally, emotionally, and physically? What are you doing? Ask yourself those questions. If you don't want to ask yourself that question now, ask it when you leave here or when you go home tonight and you're sitting in your bed or laying in your bed. Ask yourself that question. When you make a commitment, especially one to yourself, you begin to strengthen your mind in ways that open new possibilities. Growth in yourself eventually leads you to new opportunities. Opportunities that don't care about until you grow into the person who's ready for them. All you must do is focus on self-improvement. Start by reading personal development articles and books. Examine your values. Talk to yourself in a caring and loving way. You need self-confidence before you can succeed in following your dreams. You need to believe in yourself and your ideas enough to pursue them. As you grow up, you build up that mindset and belief. Do your best today. Ask yourself the following questions and commit to doing it every day. It's better than your life was before. Keeping commitments to yourself is the greatest act of self-love. Staying true to your word shows that you value your own goals and desires. You can uphold the promises you make to yourself. You can do this even if you're already satisfied. You don't need to go cross-country voluntarily to serve with your life and the world. Self-improvement is one thing, the greatest favor you can give. Have fun. Be creative and stick to your work. Momentum for my success starts today. When you are inspired, get inspired. The dictionary states that mentally you are stimulated to do or feel something above all. An inspired person often feels compelled to be different and do better than they currently are. Who inspires you? Ask yourself that question. Is it someone famous or a member of your family, a colleague, a friend? What is it about that person that you admire? My family and my extended family inspires me. My daughters, one is here with me today, Letitia Ross. That's my twin. My brother Derek is here with me today. my son-in-law, my grandchildren, personal growth through continuing education, starting my life coaching business during the pandemic. Oh, I was home during the pandemic. I still got paid, but I was sitting there saying, shame on me if I can't think of things to pursue, continue to pursue in my life. So I started my life coaching business. I remember taking a class with Miss Lisa over here. Right, Miss Lisa? See? And then I continue on, starting it, got my website up. I got my church to help me buy the materials. That's what we need, supportive people in our lives. And I thank God for everyone that's a part of my life, including you. Not giving up, no matter how many times you fail. People who live by example of others. Going out of my way to make other people happy. Forgiveness, love, which is an amazing thing. Perseverance, beauty, and faith. Having faith when times are hard will get you through. Behaviors you can practice making you more inspiring person. Inspire with encouraging words. Do you know that when you give someone encouraging words, do you know what it does to somebody? It really uplifts them. You don't know what somebody is going through on a day-to-day basis. Sometimes we just think, oh, because she's upset or he's mad and whatever. You don't know that. So I think we should be starting to encouraging people every day. Good morning. I love your tie. Oh, that's my color, yellow. Look at that red mask. Love it. Uplifting, encouraging people. Do it. Don't be afraid. If they don't respond back to you, so what? Keep moving. Go to the next person. Consider this day a new day. Let go of whatever happened yesterday, today, 5 minutes ago, and start fresh. Being true to yourself. You are equipped with an array of skills and talents that are uniquely yours. Take the positive path. Seek to be worthy and walk with confidence. I had to learn to walk with confidence. It's learning, y'all. Take the positive path, finding purpose through service. We all have a calling and a purpose, and we must be of service to others. Momentum for my success starts today. Oh my God, that is so weak. I'm sorry. Momentum for my success starts today. In closing, it's never too late to align your life with momentum to success. Huge success and abundance are on your horizon. I claim it for you. Your most important work needs to be completed. But sometimes the most productive thing you can do is set yourself up for success in a small way. It doesn't have to be large. Start out small and allow momentum to carry you forward. There is no amount of gratitude that I can express spending with you this morning. It was beyond amazing. And I know you found a lot of value and got so much out of listening. I am wishing you and your families good health and happiness. Thank you for having me. Again, my name is LaTrenda Ross. Thank you.
So if you didn't know it, now you know what a Hudson County Community College degree can do for you. LaTrenda Amen, amen, amen. Thank you so much for blessing us, and I think I'm going to have that in my head all day. Momentum for me today. So thank you again for blessing us, and it gives me great pleasure to invite or re-invite and welcome one of our own, Dr. Nabil Marchute, who has agreed to come back and to share his wisdom, his thought, and our knowledge with us. Is Nabil in the room, or is he virtual? Oh, he is virtual. He's in the room. Okay. When will he appear on the screen? After I move? After I move. So Nabil's, Dr. Marchute's bio appears in the program, and I do want to take the pleasure of reading it again for you if you've already read it. Dr. Nabil Marchute is a Fulbright scholar, an author, and a retired professor from Hudson County Community College. During his tenure, he taught a number of courses, including Introduction to Sociology, Sociology of the Family, Religion and Society, and Race and Ethnic Relations. In addition, he has served as chair of the Social Sciences Division, formerly known as the Public and Human Services Division, and for more than 28 years as the coordinator of Sociology and Anthropology Department. Dr. Marchute earned his BA and MBA from the Hebrew University in Jerusalem and his PhD from Columbia University. His research interests center on the study of power structures and the social construction of knowledge. He is the author of Voices from the Camps, People's History of Palestinian Refugees in Jordan, 2006 and 2010, and Palestinian Teenage Refugees and Immigration Speak Out, 1997. Dr. Marchute, it is a pleasure to have you back. The floor is now yours.
All right. Well, good morning, everyone. I don't know if you can hear me or not. I'm virtual, I'm remote, but I appreciate the opportunity and thank you all for the invitation. Thank you, Dr. Reber, Dr. Jones, and Lisa for the invitation, for your kind remarks. And I also really was inspired to hear Latanda and her motivational speech. She was, she resembles one of those students that made me persist in my education, in my career. I have always wanted to learn from my students. And actually in every class I went into, I said, I'm here to learn. I'm not here to teach. And my message was always consistent with that. And I wanted to learn and empowering my students to teach me. I said, at the end of the semester, excuse me, I should be able to leave with some lessons from you, from the student population, from the student, my class. And I have done that consistently and persistently for all those years. So I appreciate your comments, Latanda, and then certainly your inspiration is there. And your comments remind me of many of my students that came along the way throughout the years that I've been at Hudson. I just retired about at least this September officially, and my life has changed. So I thank Dr. Reber for referring to my retirement. It is a new chapter in my life and with my wife's life and our family. My wife has also retired and we both are engaged in new activities. I read more, I write more, and we spend more time together. And there is so much to do, and it's certainly a new chapter in our lives. And it doesn't mean I don't miss the college. I do. It's like in my blood. In my retirement note, I wrote there that I grew up with the college. The college was like, we grew up together in many ways. The college was very small. And so I'm going to take you back like 35 years ago when I first joined the college. And the college didn't look the way it does today. 35 years ago, there was an ad in the Star Ledger. This is, prehistory, pre the computer age, pre-internet and all of that. So there was an ad in the Star Ledger inviting applicants for the position of an associate professor and the chair of Public and Human Services Division at the college. At that time, we lived in Middlesex County, and I really didn't know much about Jersey City. So at any rate, I submitted the application, I sent my resume in, and my cover letter, I think I wrote it handwritten letter. I didn't type it, and I guess it didn't matter. And they called me. I was so happy to hear. They called me. They called at home, of course, because that's the only number we had, no cell phones. So they called me at home, and my wife was home. She answered, and she told the person, his name is Mark Oromaner. Some of you may remember or know of him. Mark Oromaner was vice president at that time at the college, and he called, and my wife told him, I was working at the hospital at that time as a director of a mental health department in South Amboy. And so she gave him my number. He called me, and I was with a patient. I told him, I'll call you back. Appreciate the call. I'm with a patient now. I'll call you back later. And so I called, and we set up an appointment. And Jennifer Oakley, I don't know where Jennifer is, but Jennifer Oakley was still there, and she sent me information about the college and information about directions, how to get to. So I told her I don't know how to get to Jersey City and where to go. So she gave me very specific directions. She wrote it in the letter. She sent it in the mail. I got the letter. The mail did work, and and I drove to Jersey City. Parking areas were not as much available. I didn't know where to park. I drove around. I didn't find parking, and ultimately I parked at the VIP parking lot. And I walked to the office. The office at that time was located, the administrative office was located at 901 Bergen Avenue. It's like a small office above the pizza parlor. So if you go there today, you will see the pizza or another type of establishment, and the office was located above that. So I wondered about the college. What type of college is that has a small office above the pizza parlor? Where is the campus? What is going on here? At any rate, that was my, wondering about all of that. I walked in a bit late because of the parking issues, and Mark Oromaner was very gracious. He greeted me, and the first question he asked me was, "Where did you park?" So I told him that I parked at the restaurant's parking lot, and he said, "No, they will tow your car away. You need to go and move it." So I asked him, "Well, would I go?" But I also said, "I'm already late for the meeting." He said, "Don't worry, we will wait for you." That was the most gracious, kind, beyond kindness, to say the least. That was the impression that I got of the college at that moment. I said, "Oh, this is a very special college where people actually care and they pay attention," and so forth. So he gave me information where to park. I left the meeting. I went to the parked my car. We came back, and we had a very beautiful meeting. I remember talking about research and talking about teaching. They spoke kindly about and gently about their students, actually lovingly. They were in awe of and admiration of the student body at that time. We didn't have many students at that time. We had about, I think, 2,000 students, if I remember. And they call it a college without walls. We didn't have a campus. We had offices here and there. My office then ended up at that time, Jersey City State College. Now we call it New Jersey City University. So again, change has happened here. And so my office was located there. We had students who took classes on that campus and they took classes in all the social sciences programs that we still have today, like childhood, education, human services, sociology, psychology, you name it, all the programs, criminal justice, and so forth. So that was the beginning of my journey. And the full-time faculty for the college were really mostly English and basic math instructors who taught in the college. So imagine that environment where the college didn't have its own walls, it didn't have a campus. The social sciences were located and affiliated with Jersey City State College or New Jersey City University. And the business programs were affiliated with St. Peter's College. So things have changed, and there was so much turmoil and tension at the board meeting, at the board of the college, the board of trustees, and they couldn't actually at that time settle on any given president or applicant, and they will hire someone and then fire them, and they have conflicts among them. So it was so much politics and that took the energy away from the real task. And I remember an interim president at that time who with the board decided to fire everybody, including himself. So they fired everybody, faculty, staff, administration, everybody got the pink slip. And they said, we are going to reorganize and restructure the college. And that's how it kind of got on the new momentum. And they hired those that they wanted to hire back, and they did not hire some individuals at that time. So there was a very rocky history for the college, and for the last, I think, 30 years or so, the college has moved forward. And now here we are. Beautiful campus, beautiful buildings, and then the parking is still an issue, I know, but it is way better than before, and all of us at that time and those who joined us later have made a contribution to the advancement and enrichment of the college. And so the college grew. We have more buildings, we have more facilities, we have much more modern equipment, and we have more students. And that is really a tribute to everyone at the college. No one can take credit alone for all this work. This is something that cannot be done by one person. It's a communal act. It's an act where the community comes together and they contribute to it. For each contributes his or her own part, but ultimately it adds up. My first experience in teaching at Hudson County Community College, you know, I originally came from Jerusalem, as my bio says, and so I did teach at the Hebrew University and also at Bethlehem University. We're talking about the Holy Land, right? So I am holy. So my first experience in teaching, college teaching, was done at those universities back there. But at Hudson County Community College, I entered the classroom. The college had a building, I think on Cottage Street. They rented a few rooms there, and my class was in the evening. I entered the classroom for the first time, and I remember, you know, there's that certain thing that stuck in your mind. So I entered the building. It's a bit confusing to find the place and to find parking. At any rate, I entered the building and I got to my classroom. I waited a few minutes for the students to come in and sit down. And I had prepared a very serious lecture at that time. You know, I said, you know, I came from Colombia, very prestigious institutions, and I need to do some work here that could make a difference. I prepared a very serious lecture. I walked in and the students gathered, and then I started lecturing. 5 minutes into my lecture, I noticed that they were not, actually, the students were not with me. I paid attention. I worked in mental health for many years, so I can pay attention to the nonverbal messages and signs and cues and all of that. And so I noticed that they were not listening. So I stopped and asked the question, are you with me? What is going on here? And suddenly one student fainted. I mean, this is a trauma, my first class. He fainted and he fell down on the floor. It was a very traumatic experience. This is my first experience at the college teaching. I said, what did I sign up for? And so anyway, we called the security guard downstairs. He came and then they called the ambulance. And it turned out that that student was intoxicated. He was under the influence. And I said, my God, what did I do? To make him drunk? Did I make him drunk? At any rate, that ended the class, so which was a relief. And then I had to go home and recapture my notes and say what really happened here and how to connect with the students and how to engage them. And that's when I realized that really lecturing was not the mode of teaching, that it is time to change and to move into, I came from those traditional institutions where everything was done properly according to the old codes of teaching and lecturing and so forth. And I realized that, the only way to reach the students is really through those interactions, that you have to have a dialogue with them. You have to engage them. And you need to share with them as much as you want them to share with you. And that's how learning takes place. And then I thought of the model of the parent-child model. And, you cannot teach your children remotely. You cannot teach children by lecturing to them. You teach them through interaction, through dialogue, through engagement. And that's the model that I took on. And that served me very, very well over the years, engaging the students. And so for today, I wanted to, I gave a title when Lisa asked me, what do you want to talk about? I said, I'll talk about critical education and notes and share notes from my journey. And so I sat down 2 weeks ago when she called, and I sat down and I wrote 3 papers. And I said, none of them make sense. I have the theories. I can give you the scholarly perspective on critical education, but that's not what I have decided to do. I've decided just to speak to you about a different side of the instructor, a different side of the professor, and that side is the artist. The artistic, consider the scholar, consider the teacher as an artist. You engage in activities that are supposed to transform people's lives. All of us did that. I have done it, and I continue to do it in so many different ways. And all of us in the classroom do this type of work. We engage our students, and the idea is that we want to transform the student. But then I thought about this idea of critical education and transformation, and what does this really mean? What is this craft that we call it education? What does it actually mean? And so if you look up the term education and you go back to its roots, like, the sociologist Emile Durkheim talks about the idea of understanding, and that you have to have a methodology of understanding social reality. And one of those methods is that you have to go back to the origin, to the roots of things, to the original first appearance of the event. So you have to go back in history. Of course, education has a long history. Religion has a long history in our life, and politics and so forth. So where do you start? And historically, it's a bit complicated issue. And so instead of going back in history, I went back to the language. I looked up, and if you look up the term education and you try to look at the Latin origins of the word, and you come across two different terms. You come across, the first term that you come across is educare with an A, educare. And educare means training, skill acquisition, vocational training, if you will. And then you have the second term, the second meaning of education, which means, which comes from the word educare with an E. Educare with an E means lead out into the light, enlightenment, if you wish. Lead out of the darkness into the light. And this is really a very, very powerful understanding of what education is all about. Education is the process of enlightenment. So yes, we engage in two activities. At the college, we have the vocational part, the vocational side, and at the same time, we have the liberal arts part, the part that has to do with liberation of the mind, with enlightenment, and so forth. And actually, if you go back to your religious traditions, I'm not a religious person, but I am familiar with the literature. And if you look at the biblical stories, the Bible talks about God said that let there be light, and there was light. So light is an essential part of the human spirit, part of the human experience, that you cannot really be human unless you see the light. And in the Islamic tradition, they talk about reading. I think the first verse in the Quran talks about reading. When God talks to the Prophet Muhammad, he said, read. That's the first thing. Reading, education. This is essential for the human spirit. And so if you look at human civilizations, whether it is the Islamic or the Christian world or the biblical world, or any other tradition, you will find a great emphasis on light, enlightenment, and enlightenment. And they tie education to it. So we are a very special, we are really in a special field, very powerful field that we have available to us, and we have, engulfed ourselves into, that would ultimately make a difference in the human spirit and the human mind. So having said that, and having, knowing that, culture, that education has these two different parts of vocational, I think the college, as a college, all colleges have to determine their direction and how they have to actually ultimately reach some type of a balance between the two, between the vocational part and the liberal arts. And also my note here is that I don't think you can apply the same standards to both. Each system, each unit has to have its own ways of measurement and assessment and so forth. But that's a different note here. And so what does it mean to be an educated person? So we want our students to be educated. We want our students to be enlightened. And of course, we want them to have a skill. We want them to have a certain vocation so they can survive out there in the world. But vocation alone is not sufficient from our understanding of education, because we need the individual, we need the student, we need the individual who is part of society to be an active participant and an enlightened participant. Now you can see if you look at our political spectrum today and you see the tensions that are going on, regardless of your political views, you begin to see the dark and the light and then the conflict between the two. It's certainly there, and it is on display almost every day in the last 4 or 5 years of the history of this country. And so education as a sign of, as a form of, you know, enlightenment, in education as a method of leading out of the darkness into the light. And when we speak about higher education, so the term higher implies, you know, I'm leading out higher. I want the individual to achieve higher levels of enlightenment. Not just to say, you know, I am a good person, but there is more to that. Find your understanding of who you are as a human being. What does it mean to be human? What does it mean to be part of a community? And so forth and so on. So there are so many questions here. And so I looked at, you know, students come to us with a preset minds. And it's already programmed. I don't know if you can see this, but what I did here is you have the mind of the person, and then you have all these institutions that have played a role in impacting their mind before they came to us, before they enter our classroom. They already have their own mindset, they have their own understanding. And so consider the role of the family, religion, politics, the media, health as institutions, educational institutions, the economy, science, and the military. All of that plays a role in the formation of the mind. And they set the wheels of the mind in motion. So they come to us with that mindset. Let me just, I mentioned the military here, I mentioned a side note. If you look at the literature dealing with those social institutions, the military, years ago, the military was not included in on that list. It was not part of the system that was really considered. But in the last 20 or 30 years, the American society and American culture has transformed itself significantly, that we have entered into what many writers and philosophers call the militarization of society. And that's certainly a topic for another time. But the idea is that the military has become a very powerful force in the American culture. And so it plays a role on the psyche of the individual. And so the individual comes to us and says, how was this individual formed? How was that self constructed? You know, in sociology, we argue that the self is formed, is constructed by those institutions. And so you have a culture that plays a role in all of that. And again, go back to the meaning of the term culture, and you will find it to be derived from Latin. The original word for culture, the Latin word is cultura. Those who speak Spanish, they know that cultura means culture, but the original meaning was to cultivate the soil. To cultivate, it's an agricultural term, to cultivate the soil. And so if you cultivate the soil, you get good products. Your tomatoes, your peppers, or whatever you have planted, if you cultivate the soil properly, you weed it out, and you put the water in and the fertilizer and so forth. If you do all of that, ultimately your produce will be healthy and good. The term culture is a metaphor for that process. It's actually a metaphor that says culture and education and other institutions are included here, is a process of cultivating the human mind. Cultivating the human mind. And so students come to our classroom with a mind that has been cultivated. So who are we to suggest that we can change that? What is our power? Can we actually change that process? Can we stop the wheels that have been moving on in the mind of that individual and say, no, it's time for you to think differently? Who am I to say that? What is my power? Of course, we think we are powerful enough, right? Faculty, we have the power to change and to transform, and the college as a whole institution has the power to do so. But how do we do that? And here I suggest that a way to reach a student and to engage him, you come to the class with your own discipline and with your own knowledge, but you come to the classroom with your own personality, your own character. And here I suggest that this character has to become an artist. Engage artistic activity, be creative, be imaginative, and have the courage. I suggest here the term courage. Courage is important. Have the courage to ask difficult questions and help your students, encourage your students to ask difficult questions as well. It is through this dialogue that we begin to discover something about ourselves. It's through this dialogue that we begin to understand who we are as human beings. I remember a student in my sociology of religion class when she was very active through the semester, but at the end of the semester, she came to me and she said, Dr. Marchute, I don't know if you changed my mind about religion or not, or my beliefs. I said, that was not my intention. She said, yes, I know that was not your intention. You believe in whatever, that's your choice. But she said, you know, I came from Italy, she told me. I came from Italy. And you know, in Italy, the Pope is right there. He's watching. And we were told not to ask questions, not to challenge religion, not to do any of that. And so we just followed. We follow the tradition. We don't ask those questions. And she said, in this class, I have acquired the courage to ask questions. And for that, I want to be thankful. That was very, very touching moment. And of course, we had a discussion about that later with her. But that was at the end of the semester. It was very, inspiring statements. So now I have the courage to ask questions. I don't have the answers. When I ask questions, I don't have the answer. Students tell me sometimes, what do you think? What's your answer? I say, I don't know. Well, let's figure it out together. I enter the classroom with know that, I want to learn from you. I want you to teach me, and we're going to take a journey. So I said, in sociology, and I talk about sociology because that's what I have taught all the years. I said, in sociology, we're going to take a journey together for 15 weeks, in which we will be talking about topics and issues that you're familiar with. So we'll be talking, of course, about theories and so forth that's not familiar to you. We will get through that, but we want you to also, at some point, to get to talk about groups and organizations and families and religion and politics and the economy and all of that. So I asked him, I said, if we are going to spend 15 weeks to talk about things that are familiar to us, why should you be here? What is the purpose? What do you want to do? You know about your family more than I know about your family. Everybody knows about family, for example, or about religion and so forth. So what am I going to tell you about these topics? What are you going to teach me about it? Why are we going to spend time together talking about things that are very familiar to us? And of course, some of them say, I'm here because I have to take this class. It's a required course. But at some point, I said, have you taken a course in biology? And they paused for a second and they say, some of them said, yes. I said, so what is biology? Ultimately, we get to the definition that biology is the study of living organisms, including the human body. So let's say, I said, so you take a course in biology, you know the human body, don't you? The human body has, the head, the hands, the eyes, the nose, and different parts. And so why should you take a course in biology? Then they say, well, because there are so many other factors in the body, like the internal factors and so on. So exactly, that's what sociology is all. You have the visible parts of the body and you have the visible parts of society, but you also have the invisible parts, the parts that are inside the system. How do you know who owns society? Who controls it? Who makes the decisions? How do we manage our place in the society? Who are we? Do we really make a difference? Who cares if I have an A in this class or an F in this class? Who cares? In the larger scheme of things, nobody does. And it doesn't matter. Who cares if I have a PhD or not? Who cares about that? In the larger scheme of things, nothing matters. But everything matters because it is socially constructed, because it is socially relevant. So I want to have an A in the course because that would help me actually helped me place myself in a higher position in the class, but also outside the classroom. I want a diploma because it will give me certain privileges and rights and obligations. That's the social reality of our life. So when we begin to understand the dynamics, I said, the human body has all kinds of things inside that you have no control over them. Movement of the blood, the movement of the nervous system, and the interaction between all of that and the brain and so forth. All that happens without you controlling it. Think about society and the forces that shape your life without you having anything to say about it. They are there. And so once you realize that they are there, then you begin to question, what can I do about it? And where do I fit in? Psychologists talk about, the self as the construct of multi-dimensions or 3 dimensions, and specifically they talk about the behavioral part, the cognitive, and the emotional part of the human being. So the self is kind of composition of all those 3, and you want the human individual to be well balanced with all 3. We are aware of our emotions, we are aware of our thoughts, and we know why we do the things that we do. This is a challenge. There are situations that you find yourself that your thoughts and emotions may not be as important. Think of the soldier, for example. What is a good soldier? When you send, soldiers to war, a good soldier is an obedient soldier. A good soldier is someone who does not, whose opinion doesn't really matter. Your thoughts and your feelings are suppressed. You have to act. So behavior becomes a factor, an important factor in that environment. In the classroom, historically, the teaching activity has emphasized the cognitive part. We want the thinking process. But now I suggest, because we want to engage a student in an artistic way that is more creative, and so we have to be much more inclusive, holistic. We have to look at the cognitive part, the emotional, and the behavioral part. I suggest, that faculty and administration kind of deal with this issue and figure out ways to address that issue, to be holistic, artistic, creative instructor. And another term that I think is very important to our student body here has to do with the self as a function or as a consequence of power. The self, and here I'm referring to Michel Foucault, French philosopher, talking about the idea of the power structure in society, and your position yourself is kind of a reflection of that power structure. So if you are, the closer you are to the power structure, yourself is represented and expressed in a certain way. And the more removed you are from that power structure, yourself is expressed and represented in a different way. And so take that, and I suggest that you consider that when you are dealing with students who are consider themselves minority, or they come from minority groups, and they are certainly not as closely connected to the power structure. So what does that mean? What does the self mean in that context? And who are they? And they have to struggle with that question. I asked in my classes, particularly in course on race and ethnic relations, what does the term minority mean? And of course, we have a discussion about the numbers and so on. I said, all right, so let's see, maybe we have three ways of defining this idea of minority, this term of minority, which I personally don't like. I don't like the term. But the term minority, again, go back to the roots, it comes from the word minor. And minors don't have the power to make decisions and to determine their destiny. So what does it mean to be a minority? How do you inspire a person who perceives themselves as a minority in that context? It's a challenge, and you cannot do this remotely. Anthropologists talk to us about, the personal bonding and the human connections that are essential for creating and socializing the mind. So to empower our students, they need to understand that reality, but then you need to encourage them to think freely and to become much more engaged beyond what has been determined for them. So I don't know if I am the time here, but I can go on and on. And I think I want to stop here, but I want just to share another note from my students, which I owe a lot of gratitude to them. One student, I remember, he said in class, I have been a student here. He was, I think, in his early 30s. He was a little more mature than the average student bodies that we have. And he said, I came to the college and I have taken courses in literature and philosophy and sociology and psychology and so forth, and taking all these courses. And now I see things differently. Things have changed my thinking, and I look and I have acquired a new language, a new terminology. But he said, when I go home and speak to my family with using that new language, my mother yells at me. She said, come back to your roots. What happened to you? Transformation creates change in their family life. And this is very, very important to understand, so we can actually help them cope with these issues. It's not easy. Transformation is not easy. It's a work that requires a lot of energy and investment in the human mind. The artistic part includes the rational and the emotional, and so I suggest that we become much more comfortable with that and think about our emotional existence. Do I, as an instructor, do I have the courage? Am I free enough to ask those difficult questions? Do I feel the support of the administration? Do I have it? Can I venture out and challenge my students? Can I lead them out? And do I have the support system behind me? Very, very difficult questions, and I think I can go on and on, but I really want to thank you for this opportunity and for sharing some of my thoughts and notes here with you. These are lessons that I have learned from my classes, from faculty, from people that I worked with over the years. And I just want to conclude that I am because of you. Thank you very, very much.
Dr. Marchute, thank you very much for blessing us with your words of wisdom about your journey. And our technicians wanted to immediately take your photo down. And I said, no, keep his picture up there so that we can really show our gratitude and applause. I have gone off script again, Lisa, but she's given me permission to go off script again. And we have I've asked a former colleague and a fellow sociologist to give some remarks or a response to your comments, particularly as professor, as artist. Michael Furlise. Michael, you have the floor to share or say whatever you'd like. Thank you.
Thank you, Daryl. Really quite a nice gesture, so thank you very much. Nabil, what a pleasure to see you and hear you again. You know, I don't think our faculty or maybe our college know that some of the things you're talking about today are things we've had regular conversations on. One of my great pleasures in having you as a colleague, and I've always kept my lucky stars that you were my colleague, was that I would often come back to my office feeling maybe a little disheartened, had a difficult time in a class, felt maybe I wasn't succeeding, wasn't getting my students to succeed. And one of the great joys was to be able to sit down with you and talk to you about that, and to get the sort of wisdom that you have showed today. You know, I think that you embody the spirit of your work. It's not just words. And you've been a guiding light, not just for me, but our whole division and other faculty. So it's been a tremendous experience, and I'm glad to see that you're still part of our college in many ways, and I hope and I think you will continue to be. You've always reminded us to be scholars first. That's been a very important message, a very difficult message for some of us, but a very important one. And I think also one of the issues I want to raise that you're talking about in terms of artists and critical approaches to teaching is that it also always included, my experience being with you, it's always included self-criticism. And I think that you exemplified that today, that we don't just come in and have a critique of society or a critique of our students or administration, but of ourselves. And that requires internal change for us, which is not easy. My teaching has changed tremendously over the years, and precisely, I think, you've described it to us, where we don't just come in and do what we were taught to do, which is to lecture. I think you're absolutely right. The experience for our students is not an easy one, because it does go against the grain of their families sometimes, their experiences, their primary relationships, and again, having the opportunity to be able to discuss that with you and getting the courage to change and not to go up there and just do the thing that you think is the right thing to do, which is to lecture, but to listen, to hear, to adjust, and maybe to think of success in very different ways. And I want to thank you for that. There's one part of our syllabus in social research methods, which you constructed, and it says something to the effect, how do I know what I know? All right? The great epistemological questions, the questions that you always put in the forefront and forced us to think beyond what we maybe normally would think. And that has always been a guiding light in my classes with my students. How do you know what you know? And how can we start there to really develop a real self-understanding and knowledge? That message of liberation has always been in the forefront. It was great to have you there to help us kind of sustain that when it wasn't very easy. And it's probably the great enterprise of our society and culture. Anyway, I will do my best to continue in your spirit and to further that influence here at our college. I want to thank you very, very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Michael Furlise. Thank you to Dr. Nabil Marchute. Thank you for those encouraging and inspiring words about social reality, critical education, and lightening up people. And thank you so much, Ms. LaTrenda Ross. Thank you for demonstrating everything the Hudson County Community College is all about, and we appreciate you spending the time with us here today, infusing us with the ideas that my momentum for my success starts today. And so you've had the you've had some salad, you've had some entree, but the dessert is coming. We are going to be getting ready for a dynamic presentation from our keynote speaker, but before we do that, we must take a quick break. We have to set a few things up, but we're going to turn it over to Dr. Jones for a second.
Just one quick thing before we depart. LaTrenda, I had my phone with me. I didn't put it aside, and because I had phone with me, I've received at least 3 text messages that said, Daryl, you must invite LaTrenda back to be the initial point of contact as a speaker and motivator for our incoming students. The second message indicated, Daryl, there's an opportunity for a public service announcement. There's an opportunity, there's a marketing opportunity that we have for yet another alumna. And the last message is, Daryl, if you don't invite LaTrenda into the classroom, we will be making a mistake. So LaTrenda, we will have some further conversations about you can continue to be engaged with the college. Thank you.
You have about a 5-minute or less break. Hurry up, do whatever you have to do. Please come back, 5 minutes or less.
We're going to talk about lots of different strategies. Some of them are going to come directly from students. Some of them are going to come directly from you. So we're going to have a nice, hopefully engaging activity. So, oops, too far. First, I'll give you kind of set the stage. We'll spend a moment thinking about our positionality. You heard about the power, our previous speaker, Dr. Marchute, talked about the power we have in the classroom. We want to reflect on that power and how we can utilize our privilege in a way to support student learning. And then we're going to it's like going crazy on this. Apparently, it's very, very finicky. Okay, then we're going to do a quick kind of context setting with backward design. I'm making an assumption that many of you are familiar with backward design, but if you're not, you'll get kind of the quick and dirty version of that to make sure you understand where the assignment piece falls into the process. And then we'll spend the majority of our time really talking about strategies we can use to create meaningful and culturally affirming assignments. So for many years, and then we'll end with a call for action. Our student body has changed significantly. This thing is going to make me crazy. Why is it like showing different things here? Are you out to get me? I'm too fast for it. I'm trying. Okay. Are we ready? He's right. If you slow down, it worked. Slow is not my specialty, so I'll work on that throughout, but I'm seeing there, and then I'm looking there, and I'm like, it's not matching. Okay, so you know that our student body has changed significantly. You know here, especially at Hudson County Community College, you are serving an incredibly diverse student body. And yet, when you think about the assignments that we use, we probably have not made that many changes to how we engage our students in the classroom or don't, and the nature of those very traditional assignments. So today, my challenge to you is going to be to think about how we can rethink the way we engage our students through assignments. Now, I know you're thinking, assignments, is this really the way to engage our students? Like, is this all you got, Christine? And I'm going to tell you, my latest book is called Keeping Us Engaged, that I co-authored with 50 students from across the nation, community college, four-year colleges, undergraduates, graduate students, all different folks. And when I did this call to students to ask them about what do your faculty members do to engage you, the chapter I got the most contributions for was assignments. So it's important for us to really leverage this, and it is a point of our power and our privilege in the classroom. You determine the assignments for students, and that determines the learning experience to a pretty large extent. So we're going to do a very quick turn and talk. I'm probably clicking this too many times. Maybe I should point this way. Okay, I'm going slow. Can you just click it for me, maybe? I don't know why it's not moving. There it is. Quick turn and talk. Turn to your neighbor. You have about 15 seconds. What do you think the graduation rates of these different populations are? Go, 30 seconds. You just go ahead and predict. I knew you were going to ask all these questions. Like, in what context? We don't have time for all this, Dr. Reber. Yes, across the, yes, it's not a community college sector, it's all sectors. Yes, yes, it's not Hudson specific. Note cards are right here. You need one? Not yet. We're not doing a note card yet, but you're just doing a quick turn and talk. Actually, it's going to be over right now, so it's okay. Okay, so folks, let me grab your attention back. All right, I'm going to do a quick timeout for process. How many of you are interested in finding out the actual numbers? Does anybody care? Oh, we got a whole lot of interest in the crowd. Awesome. How many of you would like your students to care about what you have to say next if you're teaching? Or if you're an administrator, what your staff would like? Would you like them to care what you're going to say? Yes. So this is a process that I often use in my classroom called prediction. It takes literally 30 seconds. I could have skipped this slide and I could have just shared with you the stats. But instead, I got you cognitively engaged and you want to know if you're right. Right? Now, what's going to happen is someone's going to go woohoo, and they're going to maybe high-five each other, because someone's going to be pretty darn close or maybe even right on the money. Now, I'm not asking anyone to share, so there's no public, unless you, shout out, woo-woo, then we'll know. And that's great. I'm really happy if you know the data, but the data's not good, so the woohooing, it's okay, but we know we're not woohooing with the stats, okay? Let's all be clear on that, because the numbers are really ugly. Okay. Now, this is from 2017. There are different numbers out there. I will tell you that all these slides will be made available to you. Lalisa has them, so you can have all of this information. They're also on my website. This is not okay. So this is the why we need to have this conversation, right? This is our why. I want to begin with positionality. Or we're going to go straight to privilege. No, we're going to start with positionality. Many of you have probably heard of the term positionality when you think of the scholarly part of who you are. If you do research positionality is talked about all the time. What are you bringing with your lens to the table that might be biasing and impacting the research process? What is a conversation that is not happening enough is how does positionality impact us in the classroom? So I'm going to challenge you to think about how your identities, your values, your experiences, the who you are and what you bring to the classroom, how that impacts the assignments you create, the course design that you use, the strategies that you use, and does that advantage some of your student population and disadvantage others in your classrooms? It may not be intentional, it may not even be something you're aware of, but if you don't start to think about that, you're not going to be able to make a difference and really shift it. So this is kind of tiny text, so I think I'm going to read it if I can get a little closer because my eyes are going too. This is an excerpt from an article that I read on a professor who was trying to explain privilege to her students. And I want you to think about the points of privilege that you have that you're bringing to your class. As an instructor, just in that role, you're going to have some privilege. So we're all going to have different layers of privilege. Some of us are walking in with a whole lot. If you're a white male, you're walking in with a ton of privilege, right? If you're not a white male, not as much. But we all are in faculty roles. So here is this excerpt from Clifford. As I started out, I felt my feet were wings. I had gone for a longer than usual run, oh, God almighty, a few days before, and decided that must be the cause of my improvement. It's possible that I looked quite slow to anyone who saw me, but by my standards, I was zooming along. The Chariots of Fire theme song was going through my head. I felt like I reached the end of the first mile in no time. My hope had been to run the return route faster than the first mile, and I had no doubt in my mind I'd be able to. But then I reached the end of the road, and I turned around. As I started to run back, I was gasping for breath and had to fight for each step. Now, the road was pretty flat, so it's not that I was going uphill now. No. What I realized as I ran that first block in the return direction was I was now running headfirst against the wind. I was aware of that wind every step I took, and I knew I had to expend a lot of energy to simply move forward. It was very obvious to me that the wind was an obstacle to my running prowess. It took me a little while to realize, however, that same wind that was now making it so difficult for me to run a few minutes earlier had been pushing me along that first half of my run. What I thought was a major breakthrough in my development as a runner was really just nature giving me a push. While I was constantly aware of the wind on the second half, I hadn't noticed it at all on the first half. Instead, in my mind, my improved abilities were all because of me. I thought I was becoming a damn good runner. As I was cooling down, I realized that this experience provides a metaphor for how privilege works in our society. Privilege is like the wind that was pushing me along. It surrounds us. It gives us an added push, unearned benefits and advantages that make it easier to excel. The person running against the wind will never forget the wind is there. Similarly, many in our society can never forget that it's riddled with racism, sexism, class inequality, heterosexism, ableism, religious intolerance. At the same time, others of us can go on blissfully unaware that the wind is at our backs. Our society is structured to keep that privilege invisible much of the time. And those with privilege often attribute their success to exactly the kinds of things I was thinking on the first half of my run. My success is because of my abilities and my hard work. I want you to reflect on that and think about the points of privilege that you are bringing to the table. And again, I know that varies significantly across this room. We're all bringing different levels of privilege, and some of us are bringing significant levels of oppression. As you think about that, you want to think about how that impacts you in the classroom. So these are some really great questions that you should be asking yourself, and quite honestly, we could spend the entire hour just on this slide. But given our time constraints, unfortunately, we're not going to be able to spend as much time as I'd like on it. But I do want to ask you all these questions out loud. So because the text is small, I will once again read it to you. What are my beliefs about assessing student learning, my grading approaches? How should students feel in my classroom? Why? How are equitable and inclusive learning environments created and sustained? In what ways does my privileged identities take up space in the classroom? How can I account for this? As an instructor, what ways might I perpetuate existing structures of oppression in the classroom, and how can I disrupt this? These are powerful questions that I hope you will continue to talk about, that it gets you prompt and excited enough to talk about today, tomorrow, the next day, and forever on. If you could bring these questions up in your department meetings, this will be a much more, I don't know what your department meetings are like, but I can tell you about a lot of department meetings I've been at and a lot of different places, and we aren't having this kind of dialogue. This is a much more powerful dialogue than, a lot of the talking memo stuff that happens at meetings. So I encourage you to try to think about how we can bring that into our daily conversation to think about positionality. This is my instructor positionality, and I encourage you to all create your own instructor positionality. So I will once again read this. I'm sorry, it's not going to be a reading presentation. It really will shift from this in a moment. I just know it's a lot of text and it's hard to see from far. So I'm a white, middle-class, cisgender, heterosexual, able-bodied female professor who's been teaching mostly in the community college sector for over 20 years. Has authored 7 books, given talks at 50 colleges, conferences, universities. I believe in a collegial approach to learning, and that the deepest levels of learning happen when we challenge and support one another. I believe that every student brings valuable experiences and perspectives to the classroom, and that learning is enriched when all voices are heard. I believe that learning takes courage, and that we can all grow and learn, yet acknowledge that learning environments can and do impact students differently. I believe there are many ways for students to demonstrate what they have learned, and that learning takes time. As a result, I believe grades should be primarily based on what students have achieved by the end of the semester, and that students should be able to choose how to demonstrate their learning. Although I value timeliness, I care more about a student's well-being and acknowledge that life circumstances can sometimes get in the way of meeting deadlines, and that school may not be the priority. Consequently, I believe students should be given flexibility with deadlines when needed. So when you think about what you value, what you believe, you see how this is going to translate into the rest of my presentation. I think you can see the writing on the wall. You're going to see the kinds of things that I'm going to challenge you and what I have challenged myself. I'm going to tell you, this positionality is something that grows. You came to me when I first started teaching. This would not have been anything like my positionality, right? I mean, the first part, yes, I'm always have been white. There's pieces of me that haven't changed, So there's parts of that would definitely stay the same. But there's a lot of the values and the beliefs that have really changed over time. So it's something we should constantly revisit, which means we should be constantly revisiting what we do in the classroom as a result of that. And we are not doing that enough. I know we all do it a lot, but we're not doing it enough and with the strong enough lens on culturally affirming assignments. Okay, so I did have a reflection opportunity. We don't have time for that one, so that'll be a homework assignment to please reflect on your positionality. What good professor doesn't give homework, so you have to have some homework. I do want you to do that, but I know you want to hear about a lot of the strategies that we're going to talk about. So the first thing we're going to do is context set by talking about backwards design. So for those of you who are unfamiliar with this process, it's kind of the classic key figures in this field are Wiggins and Mattei and D. Fink, but I'm going to go with Wiggins and Mattei. And basically what they talk about is how important it is for learning outcomes to drive everything. So what are your goals? What are you trying to achieve? Once you determine what you're trying to achieve, then you figure out what evidence of achievement do I need. So assignments is step 2 of the 3-step backward design process. And that's the part we're going to focus in on. I'm going to assume that you already have learning outcomes established, and they're probably department-wide, and they should have hopefully been thought about. I am going to challenge you to go back and think about those outcomes and whether they're right or not, or whether they need to be modified. But for the sake of today, we're going to assume that you have good outcomes in place. We're going to talk about how you can get creative with the assignments. The third part is then, okay, now how do you teach to that? So what approaches? That's not the focus of today's presentation, although you'll get bits and pieces a little bit here and there. It'll be mostly on the assignment piece. Okay. All right, so here's the time where I'm going to challenge you to even rethink your outcomes. So a number of years ago, I'm a psychologist. So that's my training, my discipline, I'm a psychologist. So I go to the APA, which is the American Psychological Association conference. Well, I haven't been to it in a little while, but I used to go to it fairly regularly. And I went to this session, and I was like, oh my God. Have you ever been to a session and you're like, what? How have I not really thought about this before? I thought I was an educated person and I was fairly smart, and I feel like a completely not smart person at the moment that I didn't think about this. So here is what the presenter said. He said, in psychology, and you folks know, got any psychology friends in the room? Anybody? All right. In psychology, and we're not the only ones, so I'm going to pick on us for a moment, but it really transcends all disciplines. We are creating our entire curriculum with the goal of someone going on to get a PhD in psychology, right? So APA style, that's like, whoa, you got to have APA style, right? And people go crazy when there's a comma not in the right place, or, APA style can be a thing, man, right? We're like forcing APA style on students. And then if you're in the English class, we're forcing MLA style. Oh my gosh. And we are doing heavy research and stats, right? Because they need to have those skills if they're going on to be a psychologist. You can't go get a PhD if you don't have strong research and stat and all of this, right? Well, folks, we're talking about a very small sliver of folks who ever go and get a PhD in psychology. It turns out that it's 4%. So our curriculum is catering to the 4% of our student body. Does that make any sense at all? It makes no sense at all. So we need to rethink it. Now, if you add the master's degree, we got a whole whopping 14% combined between master's and doctorate degree in psychology. The majority of them are not going on to grad school, and they're getting jobs in lots of different fields. And what do we ask them to do? Write research papers using APA style, right? Like, that's what we do. And I bet you're doing a lot of that too here at Hudson in all different disciplines. So I'm going to encourage you to think about the traditional approach we have been taking. And is that truly meeting the students' needs? Is this really what your students need as a graduate? If they're going out into business, do they really need to write a 30-page research paper? Like, in what business are they doing that? I mean, I don't know. I mean, the only time I'm reading those things now is in doctoral program, but even there, we're asking students to create infographics and blogs and documents that are going to be more user-friendly and accessible to practitioners. Like, what is the point of writing these big, giant papers that no one's reading? It's problematic. So I'm going to challenge you to go back and think about that before you even decide what kind of adjustments you'll make to your assessments. Okay, so now if we're going to move forward, we have to define what do we mean by meaningful and what do we mean by culturally affirming. So meaningful. This is a quick turn and talk. Oh, God almighty, I just gave you the answer. Okay. Close your eyes. You didn't see behind the wall. All right, a quick turn and talk. For this one, you'll get about a minute or two. It's not a hard question. Just turn to someone near you and talk about what do you think makes this assignment meaningful. I will ask for a couple of volunteers to shout out loudly so we don't have to worry about running with the mic. Okay, so go ahead, 2 minutes, I'll call you back. All right, folks, I am going to ask you to come back to me, please. So do I have maybe 2 or 3 brave souls that can help me define what it means to have a meaningful assignment? Yes, loud and clear, please. Shout it out.
I look at what's ahead of them. So I teach ESL, and I know that a lot of our students want to continue with their college credit classes. So for me, meaningful would be to teach them how to write an essay that they would need in English 101 and probably other classes that they are taking.
Okay, so for those of you on the WebEx call, it was predominantly focused on making sure it's skills they need in the future, you know, so connecting it to future. And what, can we take one more? Rafi over here? Oh, someone went away for the mic. Apparently you weren't loud enough screaming. Okay, go, go, go. All right, here we go.
We said impactfulness and how it's going to relate to the career aspiration that you want.
So that impact, that relation to the real world, your career, you know, making sure there's a reason for it, right? In the future, or even today, it could be relevant for you now as well. All right, excellent. Here's my response. So it really means that you know who your students are, because how do you know what their career is? How do you know what they need tomorrow, which classes they're taking? You have to get to know students. So that's kind of a critical element. In order to make it meaningful, you have to, you know, it's not like a generic meaningful. What's meaningful to you may be very different than what's meaningful to me. So you're going to need to embed some choice too as we go along. So we're going to talk about that as well. Now, here comes the index card activity. Does everyone have an index card? Okay, does everybody have a pen? I didn't bring those. If not, borrow from your neighbor. Because we are short on time, I am going to ask you to be quick. And I know you like to be very thoughtful and pensive. This is academic audience. I get it. But I'm going to ask you to write as fast and as brief as you can. What defines culturally affirming assignment? How would you define that? Don't put your name on it. The only thing that it has to be is legible. Someone else is going to have to be able to read it. So if you can write down what makes it an assignment culturally affirming. And I don't know if the folks on Zoom can do, or WebEx or whatever tool you use, are they able to do chat or no?
That's what you're doing.
Do they have the chat feature? Yeah, so they can do, you can do it on chat for those watching virtually to share your responses. That would be terrific. A few more seconds to finish up your thoughts. Okay, we're going to do an activity in a moment. So finish up, while I'm explaining the activity. It's a pretty fast one. It's actually called the 5-paper fast pass. So what's going to happen when I say go, you're going to get up and you're going to exchange cards 5 times and you're going to sit down. The fast part's really important, so you can't go off talking to your buddies and all. Like, this is not a conversational activity. It's a passing of the papers, and then you try to sit down. Like, it's almost like the winner of the game sits down first, so, I don't want you falling or anything like that. Don't go that crazy. And if if it's 5, it's about 5 times. So if everybody else is starting to sit down, you only did 4, no one's gonna know. Sit down, it's close enough. Okay, all right. Is there any questions about it? So again, no talking, no nothing, just passing. 5 times. On your mark, get set, go. Oh, perfect. Oh, thank you.
I think I did 10.
All right, well, that does happen sometimes, but we won't know unless you shout, I got mine back. Then we will. Which happens usually almost every time somebody's like, oh my God, I got mine back. Okay. All right, so now I'm going to do another timeout for process. I love this activity in my classroom, and here's why. We've been sitting a long time, folks, right? I'm feeling very privileged that I get to stand right now, and you folks are still sitting. And you've been doing that since 9 o'clock. It's hard to sit a long time, and our students are often sitting in back-to-back classes for a long time. So even just getting up to move gets you more energized and excited. I mean, you probably just feel it right now that you're feeling hopefully a little bit more, focused and engaged than you were maybe right before you got to get up and move. The other reason I like this is that it's a great way to just anonymously exchange cards. So now I can call on students who may not normally participate. So I'm going to just ask a couple of you to share. So I'll probably call on one of you, and then I'll ask if someone's got a really cool card that they want to share. Okay? So let's see. Would you mind sharing yours, please? What does your card say? Oh, you know what? I'm sorry. I should have picked somebody close to the mic. All right. Oh. Yeah, we'll have both of you go. Go ahead. You can go first. It's fine, and then she'll go.
Thank you. To define an approach that assignments are text relevant. I believe that says. Sorry. Just
Okay.
deciphering.
Okay, and now would you mind sharing yours?
Connects to the student's culture and positionality, not the professor's, would
Ah.
require giving options to readings, assignments, etc.
Wow. We picked a couple good random ones there, didn't we? Those are really meaningful. Does anyone else have a card that they think, wow, we've got to hear this. It's really awesome. Over here?
Validate your life experiences and beliefs.
Okay, so validation, honoring, student values and perspectives and lived experiences, not necessarily professors. Anybody else have something they want to share? One more here.
This one says, it would be anthropological. Tell me about your family tradition.
Oh, okay. So asking about family tradition. So all of these are great examples. Here is the definition I'm going to share with you that I found by Allen et al. So I'll read this one also. Affirming education means that one's background, culture, and experiences are viewed with high regard and esteem. Moreover, the educational process is committed to the positive self-concept and racial identity development of students by honoring the legacy, the historical, and contemporary contributions of their racial groups. Go and look at what we do, folks. This is hard to find. This is hard to find. And if we find it, it's often an isolated assignment. It's kind of out of the norm to see it. So we want to try to make this the norm. And I want to challenge you to think about how you can modify your assignments to really fall into this culturally affirming category. These are really important characteristics of culturally relevant assessments. Singer and Freeman talks about this. Alignment, all assignments need to align to the learning outcomes. That's the, Wiggins and Matai, backward design we just talked about. Has to be a strong connection. Clarity. We often leave students behind when they don't know what we're talking about. So we often have the assignment very clear here, but we haven't done a good job at articulating it. And I don't care if you said it, it doesn't mean that they heard it. And I don't care if you wrote it down, it doesn't mean that they understood it. So the way in which we say it, not just giving the specifics, we have to make it in a student accessible format, not using our jargon and all. Like the first time they see APA style, they want, what is that? That is something that we just talk about like this all the time. But for them, it's not. So it's something that we need to be really clear about. Scaffolding. I'm going to talk to you at the end of today very briefly, probably, because this is the part we're going to run out of time for, about building in opportunities for feedback along the way. There is no reason that we should be sitting grading papers in December or projects or website designs or whatever it is and have students do awful on it. I mean, that's a completely awful experience for you, right? I mean, I don't know about you, but the worst experience I have as a faculty member is when a student submits something that's like not on target. I mean, it really pains me, and especially when it's at the end of the semester. Like, what are we going to do about it now? Like, the learning experience is over, and they didn't get what we wanted them to get when they came here. I failed. That's my failure. So we need to build in that support along the way and that feedback loop. To also look at the assessment environment. Are you all familiar with stereotype threat? Just in case you're not, I'll share with you what stereotype threat is. If you are a person who belongs to a group where there's a stereotype against your group, in a negative way, I'll give you an example. The one they often use in the literature is females with math. So stereotypically speaking, there's a stereotype that females are not as good at math as males are. If you are a female going to take a math test, you have this additional pressure on you that you are worried about validating and confirming that stereotype. And that additional pressure on you actually results in you affirming and validating that stereotype because it negatively impacts your performance. They have done this, if you haven't read the research on stereotype threat, you should. They have done this at the most prestigious schools, Ivy League schools. You're like, what? A female in an engineering program in an Ivy League school? And stereotype threat? And the answer is, oh, yeah. And it's not just, in that environment. It's obviously happening in your student body as well. So this is real. And one of the best ways to combat it is to stop giving them tests. Now, I know that's going to be a wild recommendation that I'm making today. But I know, but that's a wild recommendation. But wait. I'm not saying you have to stop, and I know sometimes you need to. If you're nursing, you have to prepare them for the licensure exams. I get all that stuff. But I also know we overuse tests, and we go to them as our go-to assignment. And tests are much more likely to have stereotype threat impact them than other kinds of assignments. I'm going to show you some data on that if you don't believe me. And then the last one is to ensure that we have inclusive content, which is not happening either. So I will share some more information about that with you as well. All right, I'm doing a look at the time, and it pains me to do this, but I'm going to have to probably cut a couple of the activities, and I may not be able to show you all of the videos, but we'll play it by ear. Okay, let's take a peek, getting to know our students. So our research is really clear that the power of a relationship matters. Students are going to be more motivated, they're going to have more confidence, and they're going to learn more when you connect with your students. If you know who they are, then you will be able to create more meaningful assignments. You're going to be able to do that better. So you need to know who they are. So how do we get to know them? There's a lot of different ways. I'll share a couple of these stories. So these are story contributions from the book that I just talked about. So these are, I don't know all of these students. They're from different kinds of universities and colleges, but I thought it was kind of interesting to hear what they talked about. So here's Rosalind and what she says. The first thing this professor had us do was create a nameplate and write on a note card some personal information, like our name, major, minor, where we came from, what we wanted to do, and a couple of fun facts about ourselves. why we were taking this class, what we wanted to get out of it throughout the whole class. Now I want you to pay attention to this part. He kept high spirits and a smile on his face. You will hear the smile matters so much. Like, I can't tell you how many of the student stories had the word smile in it. I know it's a little hard right now, but but there's a smile under here, just so you know. So I know the masks make that a little bit more challenging. It gave us a little primer on what the class was going to be about. And at the end of the class, he took a picture of each of us holding up our nameplates, and he collected them. He told us his goal was to know all of our names, and I thought for sure he was joking. I knew he had over 100 students in his classes, but sure enough, the next class, he came up to me. He knew me by name. He asked me about my second major and also the applications of psychology to business and my involvement on the swim team. So when you take a moment to get to know your students, there's almost nothing more important. Chances are, unfortunately, they're going to forget a lot of what you taught them. But they're not going to forget the relationship they had with you and how you made them feel. I know you've heard this before, right? The emotional part of learning really matters. And that's what's going to stick with them. And quite honestly, we need them to have positive learning experiences so that they continue to want to pursue further learning experiences and continue to advance themselves. Okay, here's another example. So now some of you know my good friend Shadiqua. She's one of my doctoral students, and I'm going to share. So this is where we have that other video that you have on the other page. So Shadiqua is going to share. I think I'm gonna have to cut Shadiqua. Actually, she's 6 minutes long. Oh, she's so good. All right, we won't cut Shadiqua. Go. Can you play her quickly or no? This one's the one that's not linked that I pulled up separately. Yeah. Okay. All right. It's 6 minutes, but it's really good 6 minutes. So we're gonna hear from Shadiqua. She's gonna tell you about the Pecha Kucha. Is one way that I get to know my students.
Hello, everyone. Hello. My name is Shadiqua Horge, and I am a student at New Jersey City University, the great school. I have the honor of being in the first cohort of the Community College Leadership Doctoral Program. It is an honor to present today with one of our fearless leaders, Dr. Christine Harrington, and my peer, Amy Hankins.
So we were co-presenting at a conference. That's where this came from.
But fortunately, my son is graduating middle school today. But I thought it was very important to speak and present on keeping us engaged, what works. And I was introduced to this presentation style called Pecha Kucha. Yeah, Pecha Kucha. And I was introduced during our Summer Institute. So it was the first time the cohort one, we met, we got together, we learned a lot of different things during that institute. But on that first day, I was nervous, I was anxious, I was excited, I was unsure, I was motivated, I was all these different things. I don't know if you guys maybe remember your first day of, let's say, high school or college or all those different emotions. So we were introduced to Pecha Kucha. So what is that? It's a structured presentation. And what it is it's 20 by 20 rule. So you have 20 slides and you have 20 seconds per slide. So Pecha Kucha means chit chat or chat. And it started in Tokyo in 2003. And it was adopted as this alternate presentation style. And it was great for sharing a message and conversing. So you have images on each slide. It's sort of like an image, and the presenter speaks to the image. So it started out as sort of like a icebreaker, but it was much more than that. We were engaged, we got to know each other, we celebrated our differences, and we honored our culture, and we realized that we are on this journey together, and that really bonded us to each other, to our faculty members, and we started calling ourselves the OG of the program. So I'm just going to share a little bit with you. I only have 20 slides, but you can really see how to use it and how you learn about the person. And it's a deeper level of understanding and being engaged with each other. So I'm going to share my screen with you. So keeping us engaged, students' perspective. I'm going to tell you a little bit about my journey. So if technology. Okay, there we are. This is my mom and I come from a single parent household. My mom is my best friend. And the other picture shows one Sunday morning getting ready for church. Our church is a big part of who we are. And we came from humble beginnings. We didn't have a lot. I didn't know it at the time. See, the slides go quickly. I was valedictorian of my high school, which is one of my goals. Wanted to buy a home. This is my home. Then I wanted to start a family. These are my two boys. And then I began my career journey. So you begin the ladder, the race, the hurdles, the ups, and things of that nature. And this is some of my students who graduated, who I'm very proud of. They're in the middle there. And I work at Hudson County College. And everything seemed to be going great. Then came my diagnosis of cancer. But I did not let that deter me. I persevered and I'm in remission. And I continued on my career path. I was in academic affairs for 10 plus years. And then I transitioned recently to student affairs. So this is the bridge, the gap, bridging the two, the academic affairs and the student affairs side together. And it led me to New Jersey City University. And these are my family members, my peers, my support system. We have a GroupMe app where we encourage each other. We talk to each other along this journey. And it started really during that summer institute. And during that summer institute, one of the great things that really resonated with me is this picture about equality versus equity and what the difference is. And that led me to my social justice advocacy work here at my college and also in my community. So I love quotes. I love to have Post-its and I like having positive affirmations and things of that nature. So one quote that I love is, "We may have different religions, different languages, different colored skin, but we all belong to one human race." So thank you. That's just a little bit about me. But see how during those, I just had 10 slides, you gained so much information about me. You're engaged. You may want to know more, but so that's what it was. We were engaged, and I really appreciate that Summer Institute where we got to really know each other on a deeper level. Thank you, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the presentation.
We had to do it, right? She's amazing. Shadiqa is amazing. But look and think about this as an activity in your class, a culturally affirming activity for students to talk about who they are and what they're bringing to this classroom environment. So often we do activities, icebreakers, and some of them may have this layer attached to them and some of them may not. So I want you to think about, I know this takes more time than a traditional icebreaker. I understand that. But especially with today's technology, you could even have them do it online and then talk about it, or do a discussion just with that as a way to get to know them. So I think there's a lot of really good paths forward using creative, ways to get to know our students. This is another example, maybe. here it is. This was a study by Rosen et al., and they did something called the food reflection. It was in a social work class, and basically they were asked to bring in any kind of food. It was actually a real life class with real life food. It wasn't just a picture, but you could also bring a picture in, not quite as fun, especially if it's virtual. But it's something that was meaningful to them and informed by either personal or family history, childhood experience, adult circumstances, family or personal tradition, or had any kind of personal meaning. So when you think of, the reason that the ramen is up there, one of the examples that Rosen et al. Shared was that a student talked about being really poor and having to rely on eating ramen noodles, for a long time. So it can bring a lot of real value because it gives you more insight into what your students are struggling and what they've endured and their resilience also, all of that. That's really powerful. And then their reflection project was for them to talk about, why did you choose this food? What does it mean to you? What do you want us to know about it? What memories does it evoke for you? So this is just another example. And the research study shared a lot of qualitative data that showed that this particular exercise helped students better understand themselves and also felt more connected and understood more the similarities and differences to their classmates. So again, another example. This research study I really like, and it actually points to something that Shadiq's last quote talked about, which she emphasized that we're all from one human race and looking at the similarities. This particular study was done with a high school setting, but I think it can translate into the college setting as well. So at the beginning of the year, students and teachers were given a survey, a getting to know you survey. And then they were provided it was an experimental study. So if you were assigned to the experimental group, you were given, here are 5 things that you and your teacher have in common. If you were in the control group, you were given, here's 5 things you have in common with another student at another school. And what they found, look at this data, folks. If you were in the group where you were where the similarities between you and your teacher were emphasized, students had a better relationship with their teacher, they had higher grades, and look at the last bullet, folks. They closed an equity gap by 60% for Black and Latinx students. And so the impact was even stronger for Black and Latinx students who may not have seen and noticed those similarities before. So as you think about icebreakers, they can be much more than what you think of. Pick out M&Ms and tell me 5 things about yourself. I mean, we can go above and beyond and provide a lot more structure and guidance so that we achieve our goals of the icebreaker, but also achieve our goals of kind of using that DEI lens. So I challenge you to think about what you're doing in your classroom. And I know it's not September. It's the end of September. I know we missed the beginning. There's no reason you can't do a mid-semester check-in. You know what? I think we should try and get to know each other even better, and how you can build some of those activities in. If you didn't see this, this was, I think, posted on Inside Higher Ed back in this, I don't know, maybe it was even a year ago. I guess it's 2020. I just loved this. This was called the Persistence Project. They did it at Oakton Community College. And what they did was basically ask faculty to volunteer to meet with students for 15 minutes. So if you raised your hand, you had to agree to meet with all the students in your class for 15 minutes. They did allow them to use a little bit of inside class time, but it had to obviously sneak into the outside of class time too. When you look at the data here, on the left-hand side, you can see if you had just one faculty member who participated in this, look at how the persistence rate increased from 51 to 66% almost. This is unbelievable. There are not many interventions you can do, and I know it's not truly a 15-minute intervention because for the faculty member it was much longer, but it is a fairly brief intervention to have such a powerful impact on students. So we need to do this. And when you look on the right-hand side, this is for Black students. Look at the impact. It was even more significant there. Went from 42 to 61 almost. This speaks to someone wants to be seen and heard on your campus, and they are your students. Find a way to see and hear them. That's the most important thing you can do. Really, really most important thing. And the more you see and hear who is in your classroom, the more you can cater your assignments and your learning environment to make sure that it's culturally affirming. Really powerful stuff. You don't get to do this one, I'm sorry. I let Shadiq say I'm cutting you for 2 minutes because we have, oh my Lord, I'm on tight time here. Okay, we have so much, I want to stay with you all day long. You know what, the good news is, thank you, she's got my little cue card. She's like, she knows I have another presentation I'm giving at 12:30. I know, I'm gonna give you about 6 more minutes, don't worry, Lisa, I'm good. Thank you for taking good care of me. I can come back again. I'm close, you know, I'm like in New Jersey. So the last section, I've already decided I'm cutting. And I promise I can come back. I can do virtual. I'll get it to you somehow. All right, so assignment options. This is the most important slide of the day if you give exams. Here's why. This was in the Singer and Freeman article again, and they shared this example. It was a theater appreciation class. These are the same students with 2 different assignments. When it was a multiple choice test, the underrepresented group versus the non-underrepresented group, look at these scores, a 69 average versus an 82 average on the test. This is not about who they were as students and their ability, because look at the left-hand side, folks. When it was an inclusive writing, there was a little bit of a difference, but we're talking 88 to 93. If we want to really do culturally affirming assignments, we need to drop the exam whenever possible. And I know some of you it's not possible. I'm not going to have that argument with you now. And I know that the world sets up stupid exams, you know, as being a part of what we need to train folks to do. But many of us can drop the exam. It's like history and tradition that we're hanging on to. Not okay. So we need to really rethink this. That is an equity issue by the nature of the kind of assignment that you're offering. I'll tell you, back in Middlesex, I worked in the community college sector for a long time before I, you know, am here now at NJCU. And I stopped doing the exam. I stopped the multiple choice and I shifted to essays. And actually, our psychology department at Middlesex doesn't use exams anymore. They dropped them completely. So I was really pleased to hear about that. Okay, so we know that exams may not be measuring what they're intending to measure. We know the stereotype is higher for them. We know there's a lot of bias in testing. So we need to, like, you know, look at alternatives. So Garib and Phillips talked about this cross-cultural book review and paper that they did. And I know it's a little hard to see here, but basically the moral of this story is they did a pre and a post test, and students really felt like doing this culturally, you know, they had to choose a book and they were required to look at it from another lens. So you couldn't look at it only from the traditional, you know, white perspective. You had to choose something else. And they felt like they were much stronger in their ability to understand different cultures and the impact. This was a psychology class of diagnosis kinds of situations for mental disorders. So it really did increase their awareness and understanding from a cultural perspective. Now, here's one more example from Dyer, who talked about infographics as being a really good approach. And again, I mentioned to you before, with the psychology data, we need to think about what students really need. Many of you, how many of you are in an administrative role? Any of you write 30-page papers in your administrative role? I mean, with the exception of a grant writer, you know, that's really the one exception. Otherwise, what are you getting asked for? I need a 1-pager, I need a 2-pager, I need something quick. I need something to bring to the board that's really easy for them to understand, right? So we want to teach our students these skills. It's really important to do that. Now, here's another really important point that I want to make today, is when we use traditional products, we say do a paper, and we say go find peer-reviewed research. We are, just by that process alone, excluding so many voices. Why are we doing that? Because there's a lot of data out there that most of the voices are white males who are writing the articles. So if you're going to limit that to only being peer-reviewed journals, like we're really good as faculty saying it has to be this kind of source because it's peer-reviewed. Meaty stuff, right? So it has to be awesome. Well, who is it being reviewed by? Well, actually, Roberts et al., you got to take a look at this study, folks. Roberts et al. Looked at, I think it was 5 decades of publications in 3 fields of psychology: cognitive, social, and developmental. Only 5, here's like the psychology is supposed to be a field that you would expect better than this. What he found was only 5% of the research had a focus on race. Like 5% over 5 decades of work. So if you send them out, it's not even that they're coming from scholars who are not people of color. They're coming from scholars who are not talking about race. It's like an absent component of the research. So we need to think about this and maybe not only rely on it. You know, I'm going to just give you one quick story about our dissertation. Our dissertation, we have 3 data points and they all have equal value. Yes, our students look at peer-reviewed research. They also look at public scholarship. So articles on LinkedIn, blogs, all kinds of stuff like that, websites, you know, people like Latrinda, and practitioner conversations. What are people in the field saying? All of those are very valid data points, and we need to think about getting our students prepared. When you have to make a decision in the real world, you're not running out to the peer-reviewed literature. So what is other valid sources of information that they could run to make informed, to learn and make informed choices? Okay, you can't do that one either, I'm sorry. Okay, the last 2 things I want to talk about is choice and structure. So I'm going to wrap up by saying choice is critical and it's hard to do. I want to acknowledge and I want to validate you. I just worked on a syllabus for this semester where we infused so much choice, and I ended up spending like 4 hours talking to the Blackboard guy because Blackboard wasn't liking my choice features and, you know, wasn't like letting me. I'm like, why are they making it so hard to do the right thing here? I'm like, I'm trying really hard. And it takes a lot of work because they all have to meet the learning outcomes. So this is not easy. But what I love about it is you end up grading different things. So I don't know about you, but I get bored sometimes. But I mean, even though I don't want to say, oh, I got some students, just close your ears. Sometimes I get tired of reading the same thing over and over again, you know, like, so if there's different kind of formats or methods, it makes it sometimes more engaging and interesting. I can send you this link. Caleb is awesome, you know, and talks about choice really mattering and how that makes you more own your work. So that's kind of key. The point that I really want to make, we're going to skip parts, sorry. And Julie too, and sorry, Kara. They're all great stories. But the point is, we need to infuse choice to give students more ownership and engage them. So they want to have options, and not just choice of a paper, but maybe choice of a format. You know, maybe a choice of working by themselves or with someone else. You know, lots of different ways to build choice into your assignments. When you do that, you also want to have structure built in. So the last thing I'll say is that the more structure you have, the less people you're leaving behind. So transparency about your assignments, a lot of clarity, do a video intro, write it down also, put it in multiple formats. It really does matter. And we're not going to get to talk about these other things, so I'm going to go to the end. I'm usually really good at timing these things, so I'm sorry I was a little bit tight on things today. So I do want to go to the call to action. I want to end with a call of action, so I'm going to ask you all to reflect on your instructor positionality. I want you to reevaluate those learning outcomes to see, are they really what we need? Do we need APA style? Do we need them to learn to write research papers? Is that really the goal? Then I want you to evaluate your current assignments to determine whether or not they're culturally affirming. Look at the, you know, kind of the checklist almost. I want you to consider alternatives to the traditional assignments. And we didn't get to talk about classroom policies, but I want you to reflect on those too. And are they equitable? How do they impact students differently? And then the last one that's really important is I want you to have these dialogues every day on this campus. So go to your chairperson, your department person, your whoever, you know, go to folks that are creating spaces for you to come together and say, how can we talk about this? This seems really important. Can we make sure it's a standing item on the agenda? Could we carve out, even if it's 10 minutes of every department meeting, to really focus on these issues? And with that, I am going to have to wrap up and close, so thank you. I'm sorry that was so fast and furious. I got like 3 minutes to get to the next gig. I'm all good. So,
We're gonna get you there. We are going to get you there. Let's give another round of applause for Dr. Christine Harrington. Please send me a text or put it in the chat or wherever you're at. What was the flavor of your icing? I said that was icing on the cake, so tell me about your icing. Okay, so thank you so much, Dr. Harrington. We're going to get you to your next spot. We have more for you lined up today. It is time for lunch. You can go downstairs. Lunch is prepared. If you're here at Jersey, if you're here at Journal Square, it's on the first floor in the banquet room. You're welcome to sit there and eat it. You're welcome to, you know, go back to your desk or office area, or go into the Johnson room, or or wherever or sit outside. It's a nice day out. If you're North Hudson, the food is there for you. And we'll see you back in this room or on WebEx at 1 o'clock. Don't be late. Again, thank you, Dr. Harrington, and we will share all your wonderful information with everyone. Thank you.